Let us begin. And I think that, hello everybody, it's Katy from Starlight Meditation and also from Magic Month. This is a Magic Month extra with the amazing Steve Nobel, who I am so honored to have on this show because the work he's done for so many years. I mean, you've been awake for so many years, Steve. And
awake and also asleep for so many.
but you know, the work you've done to promote consciousness and ascension and to archive it as well is just absolutely incredible. And then on top of that, you're doing your own light work and walking your own path, as well as really being this massive supporter of so many other people's paths. And I'm so honored to have you, and I'm so excited about this subject that we've got on tonight's show. But I would like to begin with a meditation, just so we can shake out the retrograde, shake out the technical problems, and come into circle with each other for those listening live and those listening in the future. So when you are ready, closing your eyes and feeling the muscles around your eyes relaxing as you breathe in love and breathe out gratitude. Breathe in love and breathe out gratitude. Feeling a column of aquamarine ascension light pouring down through you now. And this is a transcendence light. And so it comes through all of you, all of the layers of your consciousness, and lifts you up into a new vibrational consciousness. And just allow this light to lift you up out of the Mercury retrograde energies, out of the limited consciousness that we have on a third dimensional level. And in this light, experiencing your energetic wings, being able to unfurl, being able to open and lift. And whenever we open our energetic wings, and we actually have many different types of wings, and so you can observe which types are opening and responding to this light. As you feel your energetic wings opening, experience your heart expanding and your energy body expanding, because your wings cause that expansion in your heart and in your aura. And feel yourself rising up through this light, through the movement of this light as it comes through you, rising up into your higher self-awareness, where all is love, where all is perfect, where the big picture of everything can be seen. And settle into that now. And choose to listen to this webinar from that place of higher self, from that place of opened winged expansion. And now experiencing a silver light coming up in the opposite direction from the earth, coming up this aquamarine ascension blue light. And this silver light from the earth is gravitational light. And so it brings all of that raised energy and raised consciousness and expanded consciousness where you are at in that higher self place. It gravitationally pulls you back with all of that into your body, aligning you into the gravity of the earth, into the love of the earth, into your path which is upon earth. And feel that ancient connection that you have with the earth. How your ascension belongs as much to the earth as it does to the light. As you open your heart to this webinar, to Steve, to each other, those listening now and in the future, and you feel all of these hearts opening to you, these angelic higher self hearts opening to you. And you feel the love that is in our cyber circle, that is in our collective circle. And you trust that this webinar is going to be perfect for you, that you are going to receive all you are meant to receive and release all that you are meant to release. And that you are listening to this webinar because it will enhance your path. And you breathe in love and you breathe out gratitude. Breathe in love and breathe out gratitude. And when you are ready, keeping all of this expansion and awareness and groundedness, gently open your eyes and come into the space. And I really love my webinars to be co-creative. So of course, if any of you feel called to share about how that meditation was, or at any point have any questions or any inspiration that you want to gift the circle, please use the chat box to do so. The downside of live is technical problems. The upside of live is that it's more co-creative. And I've pulled a card for us at the end of the first opening meditation, and it's Moonlight Goddess, repressed emotions, healing and reflection, which funnily enough, I always feel that Mercury retrograde is about bringing up what is repressed and what we need to reflect on. Mercury's definitely made its presence held, presence known at the start of this webinar. And so just see if something shifted in you. How is the meditation for you, Steve?
Yeah, great. A good opening. Thank you. Lovely. Yeah. Very nice.
I felt
but
like
I love your meditations. I love your meditations anyway.
Oh, thank you. I really love yours as well. I find yours are so multi-dimensional and they just work through me on so many levels. And yeah, they're really special meditations. And in fact, I will be putting up a link to your amazing resource website. And thank you as well for suggesting the subject for tonight's webinar, which I feel is so fitting for this time, walking the ascension path, because as some of the people that are listening know, we are really kind of coming into a new cycle this year. And I think many people are coming onto their paths, and even the people that are walking their paths are starting to walk their paths in new ways and discover new ways. And I just think the subject of walking your path is so prime right now to be discussing. And my first question to you, Steve, is really, what do you say walking the ascension path means? Because that title kind of came from your heart, and I just wondered what walking the ascension path means to you as somebody that I feel has been walking it so much longer than most people.
Right. Well, my first, when I just to back up, I suppose I came in the world very interested in spirituality. I didn't have a name for it because back in the 60s, I mean, yes, there was the 60s happening around me, but I wasn't a kind of a hippie going to India, so it wasn't really so easy. And my family had quite 1950s values, So I went kind of sleep for a while, and I decided to try and be normal, which I thought was a bad idea, but I tried it. But I kind of woke up in the early 90s, and there was all this idea in the early 90s that you create your own reality, and there's things like flow and synchronicity, and there's a higher source, and we're more than this body, and we live many lifetimes. All these ideas were kind of, and when I read them, I was given a book, and I read these ideas, and I couldn't understand them at a deep level, but somehow they resonated totally in me, and I just thought I have to go deeper into this whole idea. And there was the idea about that there's a new age coming, this idea that this old world is kind of shifting and changing. And for a long time, I wasn't so interested. I thought, well, maybe it's possible. But I was kind of like many people, I think, first I wanted to change my own life, but before I wanted to, find out more about the planet changing. So I dived in the 90s and into all kinds of personal development, spiritual paths, and that was kind of after waking up from being normal. I realized it was a bad idea, and I stopped it. So I kind of dived into everything. And then it wasn't until so my first awakening was 91 when I started waking up. And the big one was 2010, where I kind of woke up after I went through a very dark period of like a dark night of the soul. And it threw everything up in the air. My whole life kind of went inside out. And then on the other side, I started to just get really interested in this whole idea of ascension and what I'd been through, why it happened to me. And I started kind of almost channeling stuff. I started waking up thinking about star seeds and 3D to 5D and all kind of concepts that were a bit far out for me. And it's up to them. And it kind of made sense about what was going on in the world, because the world doesn't really make a lot of sense, I don't suppose, to many people. But to me, it made sense that the world was going through a change and transition, and I was going through a big change and transition. And that is often a time of chaos and confusion and difficulty. It's not always easy. Even when something old ends and something new begins, there's a period in between those two things, which is what we're kind of navigating now on the planet. So for me, ascension is really a process of shifting away from an old paradigm. And the old paradigm I think of as fear, control, manipulation. I mean, of course, there's a lot of other things in there. It's not only bad things. But as we're shifting out, we can see, what seemed okay and reasonable at one level suddenly feels controlling and difficult and very fear-based at another level. So the more people kind of wake up, I feel, and from my experience, from the old paradigm of this is the way the world works, these are the systems, it's fine that the government spies on all their citizens, it's fine that we go and bomb the hell out of the Middle East. They're all kind of 3D concepts. But when people start waking up, I think they start questioning those concepts. Is it a good idea to do this to the planet? And so I think a lot of people are waking up from the old way of doing things, and shifting means raising vibration, opening their mind, opening the heart, bringing more light in the body, raising kind of frequency. And all these things are odd and confusing, really, for a lot of people until, I wrote a book on it called Star Seeds, and a lot of people have read it. It's a free book on my website. So it kind of makes sense for them. They kind of didn't understand what was happening to them and, around them in the world. And a lot of people, I think, even light workers, look at the world and kind of despair at the kind of darkness of the world. Whereas I look at it thinking this is all part of the healing process and the healing crisis that the world's going through. It's throwing out the old toxins. There's a lot more to walking the path as well, but I don't know if is that a starter?
I think that's a wonderful starter, Steve. and I okay, really, and I've already put up a link to your website, which has so much information on it, guys. Like, Steve does these amazing interviews, he does these amazing meditations. There is so much, like, it's like an oracle for Ascension. His website. And but I think that's an amazing start, and I'm so happy that you brought up the suggestion that Ascension isn't just going from one thing to another. There's this bit in the middle, because I really resonated with that, and I really feel that we're very much in that bit in the middle of, like, okay, we're not really in the third dimension anymore, but we're definitely not in the fifth dimension. And what is this bit for? And And I have some opinions on what I think this bit is for, but I would love to hear what you think the bit is for. What this period
this middle
is.
bit.
Yeah, the middle bit.
Yeah, the middle bit. What's the middle bit for? Well, it would be a bit of a shock if if the planet woke up, it went from 3D up to 5D in a couple of days. It would be pretty shocking for a lot of people. It's like imagine someone who's been used to a fairly critical family, controlling family, lots of limitations on their life, and suddenly, this actually happened to me. My family were quite like that, and then I joined Alternatives as a volunteer, which is a kind of organisation I was involved in for many years, promoting spiritual events. And they said there's a team training day in a couple of weeks, so I turned up, and basically they put me in the centre of a circle. They put everyone in the centre of the circle. Each one had a turn, and then everyone appreciated you. For it seemed like forever. It was torture, and it was absolutely torture. I wasn't used to it, and I felt so embarrassed. And I thought I'm not. It didn't feel real, and I thought these people are just making it up, and all this kind of thing, because I wasn't used to it. And I think that's the thing: is if we're used to a certain level of something, and suddenly it shifts up 10 gears, we freak out. It's like someone who I remember hearing a story many years ago of someone who said they were looking for a soulmate, went to soulmate workshops, and then suddenly she went to a cafe and there was this really good-looking guy sitting at the same table. He put the paper down and he said hello, and she ran out the cafe. At one level she was doing the workshops, another level actually the guy was talking to her, she ran out. It was just too much. So I think there are all these things around. Yes, we say we want things, but there's a gradual process of getting there. And certainly at an individual level, we can be faster in our process. But you take a mass of people; they're much slower in evolving, really.
Of course,
so cultures will be slower. Groups and organizations and religion will be slower. We can't expect them to transform overnight, really. If Jesus Christ landed, if he did really come again as an individual body, the church would be in total shock and probably reject him, not even try him, again. I think we have to have this process because we've been in 3D for a long time, and this bit in the middle is actually quite a quick process in terms of time. It may only be, I think, I imagine that we're really in 4D now as a planet. To get to 5D may take, perhaps another several decades for everyone to catch up. I don't know, but a lot of individuals can go much faster. So we need this bit in the middle as a kind of acclimatization time for more light in the body. And more light in the body produces sometimes a health crisis, or, as we throw out old stuff, our body has to readjust. And if we do it too quickly, you really can kind of have a crash. So time is a good thing in this process.
I was going to say, I think the symptoms of Ascension, certainly for me, and I know for other people, can be really physically intense. I wouldn't want the volts to be any faster than they are.
No.
because your physical body really takes a hit sometimes with the energies that come through. I've had all sorts of strange symptoms as a result of Ascension energies, and that I think the scariest one was around the September eclipses 2 years ago, and the energy at that time was giving me an activation from my third eye. But honestly, my words kept getting mixed up when I was speaking. I felt like I was having a stroke, and my this kind of zooming action kept going through my brain, and the only thing I can describe it like is what it must feel like to have a minor stroke or something. And fortunately I can channel, and so I asked my guides and they said, oh, don't worry, it'll be over by the 22nd of September. And it was, to the day that they said it would be. But had it gone on, I think, even a day longer, I would have been very, very scared of it, because it's not all fluffy and light, is it? Ascension is quite intense at times, physically and emotionally.
Physically, emotionally, mentally, all levels. We, on a practical level, it gives us a pull to. For a lot of people who are in 3D, that there will be definitely a pull to break away from restrictive circumstances, jobs that drain the life out of you, or or friendships which are very toxic, or that kind of thing. You know, a lot of people just feel a desire to move away from noise or bright lights. I know that, you know, in London we have these, I think it's the ambulance is the worst, the emergency service is so loud, I can't hardly bear it, you know. Maybe a need for solitude or introspection. It might be, but the physical stuff is often things like restlessness, tiredness, pains in the body, you know, sleep goes all weird. You might have intense movements of energy in the body, lethargy, fatigue, you know, or aches, neck ache, you know, pains, heartache. Yeah, I think I've heard that a lot of people have this kind of feeling they might have a heart attack. I haven't heard about stroke, but I can quite understand it. Or dizziness, isn't there? People go dizzy. I was blowing up all kinds of crystals and things. You know, the internet started going mental around me, and for a whole period of about 10 days. I took my son to the IMAX at Waterloo. It's a big, massive cinema, kind of new one and a big one. And the projector blew up in the same period where I was blowing up everything. And I thought, oh gosh, you know, that might be me. And it may not have been me, but it might have been me. So
I'm sure it was you. You're very full of energy.
Well, it makes a good story anyway, doesn't it? I say it was me. People have all kinds of memories and dreams, or it's all this. On the nicer side, it can be this nice synchronicities. I mean, this 11:11 is quite nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
For the higher self saying, you know, we're here, you are waking up, 11:11. And another one I quite like is 33:33, which is the kind of Christ numbers. I kind of like that. But,
and why do you like 33:33?
We are. Something's happening.
Why do you like 33:33?
Oh, I'm an old pagan, but actually in the last 3 or 4 years, Christ energy has become much more alive in me. I don't know why, but so it's not that I've moved away totally from paganism. I think these things always blend, but I ran a retreat recently on Christ consciousness in Glastonbury, and I did a transmission on Mary Magdalene. And, you know, for a while I was thinking, you know, I've been embracing paganism. This doesn't feel quite right, but the energy of Christ consciousness, I think, is really part of the ascension process, coming back, not really as a teacher, but more as a kind of collective grid of light. I think that's my experience, which is a kind of mass awakening for people. And this light, these energies are getting stronger by the month. And I don't know how you feel, Katy, but to me, this year has been very intense. You know, how do you feel about that?
I completely agree with you. This year, my guidance is, and I think a lot of people have been channeling about it, but we came onto this new path cycle, but it's not fully integrated. And I don't believe it will be fully integrated until August, and earliest is August with the next eclipse window. And so what I'm experiencing, and most of the people that I've been working with are experiencing, is this incredible amount of swinging where 1 minute you're really fifth dimensional and really in flow and happy and light. And the next minute you're in the worst amount of despair and kind of really low vibrational. And it's like we're swinging between these two cycles, and there's so much energy coming in. And it's actually really hard. And I'm seeing a lot of people that are what I would call very awake and very connected, really being hit by it quite hard, actually.
Yeah, I think so, yes.
And
I've had a lot of that, and also lots of interference of all kinds. As we experience today, I think I've been experiencing some of that kind of thing as well. I think this is part of almost like the guardians of the matrix of 3D are still trying to kind of pull it back a bit or something. And of course it's not going to happen, but there is still this kind of pullback, I think, to 3D, because, you know, these kind of dimensions are there for a reason. And I think, you know, transiting from one to another is not something that happens that often, you know, and these energies and these game rules are set up, and they're not so easily disintegrated. You know, they're there going, no, well, hold on, we should be 3D. They haven't completely gone yet. So,
I think they're very much there, and I really think that. And one thing that happened to me actually on Easter weekend, where I was doing a alchemy weekend, and the group really connected into Christ conscious and Mary Magdalene energy. Then I think it was actually when you were in Glastonbury doing your transmission.
Right.
And we we did a grief ceremony, and I've done grief ceremonies before because it's a very powerful way of letting go. But this time, we ended up grieving the third dimension. And
really?
suddenly, the whole group are in tears, crying their eyes out about how easy it was, and how easy it was to buy happiness, and how easy it was to be led blindly by the media, and how easy it was to be asleep. And that was really powerful for me, because I was like, no, that's part of what we've got to do right now. Is we have to, if we're going to fully let go of the third dimension, we have to let go of the part of ourselves that accepted it and liked it and didn't want to let it go.
Yeah.
And that
I haven't thought about that, the grief of letting 3D go, because I've not really come across it in myself very much. But maybe I've just been denying it,
I think you have. I mean, you're such a warrior of the fifth dimension, and it's probably not part of your path, maybe, to grieve it so much. But we were all in tears. It was incredible.
Oh, really?
Like, we were laughing at ourselves because we were like, "This is ridiculous. We're crying over a reality that is filled with war and poverty and struggle." And yet there was a sense of diminished responsibility that we were really sobbing over, and really feeling the pressure of now having to be responsible.
Well, I saw a picture on Facebook that says, "Rest in peace, third dimension," a gravestone, R.I.P., third dimension, you will not be missed. And I was, yay! Because, when I look at it, it seems like a very weird game. And I don't know how on earth I signed up for playing it. Don't you think? Yes, I guess we can grieve it. But another level, I think it's absolutely mad and mental.
It is completely mad. It is completely
when the governments are playing that game. They're really, a lot of the people are going, what? But the government's like, let's bomb Syria, let's let's cruise missile, Syrian air, all that. And it's like, they're quite out of touch, I think, it seems to me. Why would you bomb Syria with 60 or 59 cruise missiles that cost, I don't know, a load of money each, to produce peace? I don't see what it's going to do. It doesn't produce anything, really.
Well, I think...
In that game, that's a 3D game, isn't it?
I mean,
mental. When you're looking at it from another level, it seems quite mental.
It seems so mental. But I think that is something, and you mentioned this earlier, Steve, but I know a lot of people listening today are feeling the call of their path. They're maybe not fully walking their path. I would love to hear from you guys that are listening, and please do share your own experiences and ask your own questions. But I know that for a long time, I had one foot in the third dimension and one foot in the spiritual scene. And I know that many people don't come onto their path because, they're still doing their third dimensional reality job, or they're still surrounded by people that are asleep, and they're almost scared of coming onto their path for the people that they might lose and the breaking out of that reality. And it's hard because, it is hard to kind of turn around and say, oh, this is what I believe now, to somebody that is asleep, because they really think that we're the mad ones. But I have found that walking my path and waking up, the deeper I walk into the path, the more mad I think the old way is, the way that I used to believe in is. And I'm like, no, it's mad to be paying for wars, and it's mad to be working in jobs you don't love, and it's mad to be hurting the air and the soil and the water. That's the mad reality. But I personally feel, and I would love to hear from everybody else, that a lot of people resist kind of fully coming out spiritually and coming onto their path spiritually because they're scared of looking mad to the people that they love that are still asleep. I don't know if you had that experience, Steve. Or
I did, yes, I did, yeah.
Do you have any?
For many years, so I worked yeah. So I was 10 years in the banking system in the city, and then I left that. I was still asleep, but I had a crisis of ethics, about the banking then. So I left and went into Lambeth sheltered housing, far left division of one of the far left boroughs of London. And then I kind of started to wake up to spirituality there. But for a long time, I had this idea, well, I work in the 3D world, and then I have spiritual workshops at the weekend and meet my spiritual friends in the evenings, And so I lived this kind of double life, like double agent in a way.
And it is a double life, isn't it? Like it is a double life where you kind of sneak off to your spiritual reality and then go back to your 3D reality. Please, those of you that are listening, I don't know if the chatbot's working, but I would love to hear if others of you are having that in this reality. Please do let us know if that is the case.
Well, eventually there's a choice point that comes with that, because after a while I realized I can't keep doing this forever. I mean, and so I decided to leave the 3D world and go, and I ended up for a while, so I was ending up with alternatives for a number of years. I followed my heart and did that, and I got on the path. So I think alternatives is really kind of a 4D organization. Mm-hmm. Really, it's not too far out there, but it's beyond 3D. So I wasn't in 3D, 5D. I was more in this kind of bridging 4D work where I was doing kind of lovely, mindfulness and all the lovely it's mostly 4D kind of work. And then I left there and I found myself in a way back into the 3D, 5D split for a while. And now increasingly I'm more and more in 5D only. But it's almost like I went back into, and I thought, why am I going back into these two worlds? And it is difficult because you might have families, well, certainly there's families who might be 3D. They may not be jumping around at Starseed raves or anything. They might be, watching soap operas or whatever, but they're still your blood family. And then this is other calling. Walking the path for a lot of people means finding these higher vibe groups or higher vibe pathways into what am I here to do? It's a big core question for a lot of people, isn't it? What am I here to do? And I think in my parents' day, it was easier, my grandparents' day, it was easier to have a job for 50 years and get a gold watch at the end of it and just do that. But now it's much harder for people to do that because the energy is shifting. And if your path is to be a healer or a teacher, working for, a software company it's going to be much more painful to do it as the energy shifts. That's my feeling. I don't know how people feel, but I feel that way.
Yeah, I think it's really... I think I agree with everything you say, and I think that there's also that battle of, well, when you go back into the third dimension, surely that is where you need to go and shine your light. So, and so I think sometimes you get called back into those realities like you did, so you can go and shine some of your light and do some of your light work, because I think a lot of walking your path is that simple. It is just where you are walking. Yeah,
I think that's true. I think for a number of people, I think their path may well be, for a while anyway, working in organizations. But for a lot of people, it means leaving 3D organizations. Because 3D organizations, I think, change faster from pressure on the outside than on the inside.
Yeah.
For example, let's imagine there's someone working in the NHS spreading love and, loving the patients. And that's great service, isn't it? But the NHS itself will not transform because of lots of people inside at very low levels, usually, not always, but usually sending love. And, I worked in Lambeth as a manager for a while, and I had this idea, well, I'm going to love all the workers, I'm going to create more fluid workflows, and I'm going to channel solutions to their problems and all this. And what I found after 6 months was the workforce could not live without a problem that I was in.
Wow.
And so I got solutions, and they just had to find more problems. It was quite amazing. And I realized I was kind of running around, and they didn't really want the solution because they were used to hanging out in problems. And if everything was working fine, it was too stressful for these guys at the time. And of course, maybe things change. But so I thought, I'm banging my head. I needed if I really wanted to create change for me personally, with my path, I need to leave the organisation now and create pressure from the outside. For people who are really interested, you know, there's a brilliant book by a guy called Seth Godin called Tribes.
Okay.
And it's a great book, actually. So this book says that there are tribes which are old, stuck and conservative and don't want to change. And what happens then is new tribes come along, like, you know, IBM versus Microsoft type thing. IBM is very stuck in the way that nothing changes. This is the way we do it. And then Microsoft come along and elbow them out the way. You know, that's a kind of very corporate example. But there are tribes where, you know, even spiritually, there are organizations that kind of get set in their rules, you know, that have been around for a few hundred years. I've worked in a couple of them, and nothing really changes because this is the way we do things here.
Yeah.
And, you know, we can't have that. You know, I worked in one spiritual organization for about 9 months, and they were totally resisting any thought. They asked me for change because they said, "You've worked in alternatives, can you come and help us?" And I went in there, and at the board level, they were resisting it, totally fighting it. I was saying to them, "Do you realize what you're doing?" And they were like, "What do you mean, what we're doing?" Well, they were focusing and they were asking me things like, "What's the worst case scenario here?" and I'm going, "Well, you know, you guys are, you know about the secret and all this. Why are you asking that question?" So do you see what I mean about large organizations can become quite dinosaur-like? And I know a lot of good people are going there trying to change it, but it's hard work. It's much better to come out and go, "Well, you know what, I'm going to start," like you, Katy, you know, "I'm going to start my own channeling groups, my own," and people then become drawn to you. And then rather than you trying to fight something and change some system, you're creating your own new system. Well, it's much easier.
I think it's really interesting because anything that you're fighting is actually quite third dimensional, even if you're using all of the spiritual words. Do you know what I mean? If you're going in and battling and being duality, even if you're being the light in the duality, you're still playing into that third dimensional way of change, and that third dimensional way. And I think it's also so important not to drain yourself. You know, one of the things that came out of my last weekend workshop was my guides were just like, even angels don't do everything. Haven't you noticed? Like Raphael's for healing, Michael's for protection. They're not trying to solve everything. And it's kind of better to really focus on what your heart wants than martyr yourself and try and fix everything. And you know, I even got told off by a channel once because I was doing light work in London, which is very much needed. But I had a channeling session with another channel, and she was just like, "But you're pushing down the stuff that needs to come up, and you're making the process longer. Like, sometimes the best thing we can do is step out of it and let it purge, rather than keep healing it and essentially keeping it, you know, keeping the old system on life support." Basically,
yes, exactly.
Because we're keeping our energy and our light inside of it. Sometimes those old dinosaurs just need to lay down and die essentially.
Yeah. I think so. Some could go to hospital and be resurrected, maybe. I don't know.
I'm a bit concerned.
Some definitely need to die.
I'm a bit concerned that people can't seem to. I don't know if the chat box is working on here because of the Skype. So guys, do let me know if the questions are coming through. If not, pop them on my Facebook page or on the Facebook event, and I will ask Steve that way. But please let me know if the chat box is working or not. Just by saying hi or yes.
Yeah, I can see on there. Is the chat box working? If I say yes, see if you get that.
Oh,
Can you get that?
Yeah, okay, it's working. Guys, you should ask questions. You're with a master of Ascension, Steve Nobel. Start asking questions. Start getting involved. Start being fifth dimensional about it.
Yeah.
And Steve,
well,
what?
You know.
Go on.
Yeah. I was going to say, many years ago, I remember on that theme, a spiritual teacher from a pagan tradition came on and was giving a talk. This was in the years of George W. Bush, you know, that everyone kind of loved to hate.
Yeah.
And she said, look, you know, I know a lot of healers and light workers who just get together and send love to George W. Bush and Jr., you know. And she said, you know, I can't imagine if he's sitting in his office, it would be the worst thing that he'd want. You know, he doesn't want it. So she said, it was a point she made about not wasting your energy. If somebody really wants it, fine, do it. And it's a bit like, I think, and maybe you've noticed, homeless people, you know, when this is something I've noticed, that some people I'm really drawn to give to, and often they're very appreciative, and others I'm not drawn to give to, and sometimes I do, and I get a kind of gruff, or not even a look, you know. And so, do you know what I mean? So that some people are really open to help or assistance or love, and some people really don't want it.
I think that's so true. And I think I'm so glad you've brought that up, because I feel there's a lot of energetic rape that happens where people just fly their energy at other people and try and heal other people all the time. And I know it's coming from a really beautiful intention, but I really think that you have to ask permissions from people's higher self before you send energy to heal them. And even if I walk past a homeless person, I tend to do the Hawaiian healing prayer, which is the I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. But even when I do that, I ask for their higher self to receive it or not. If I send energy to who I like to call the trump card from a circle, I ask permission from his higher self, because otherwise you're really kind of invading people. And again, I think that's actually a very third dimensional way of thinking. It's like, we're going to just throw our energy at this. We're going to just throw our money at it. We're going to, and I don't think it's actually a very energetically respectful way.
No, it's not. And the point to remember is, I think for a lot of people, is not everyone on this planet, in this dimension, is in the ascension process. Some are not on that timeline. Some are still here to experience 3D, and maybe some even going deeper into 3D. Not everyone's heading in the same direction. So some people want to go to war. They want to learn qualities like courage in a battlefield, and us sending love and light may or may not help them, but that's not what they want. Is something else. They're not here to ascend, or they're not interested in ascension. I mean, I've got my own family, and there's a number of people. Of course, it's always difficult with families. They're absolutely not interested. They wouldn't even bother to try and convince them. I mean, for a while, I was kind of thinking, but I love, that kind of Christian evangelical thing. If you love them and want to go to heaven, you'll try and bring them with you. And for a while, I think I had a little bit of that mindset that, I want everyone to be in the light. But then I realized, some people, it's not part, their trajectory is not that way, and we need to respect wherever they're going.
And certainly not now, even if it is in the future for them.
Yeah.
I am grateful for the time I spent asleep, and I wouldn't want that taken away from me.
Yeah.
And the time it took me to wake up, and the battles that I had to face now serve my path. And so it's important that we don't take those things away from, or try to take those things away from other people. And actually, if you want to help, and I think you'll agree with me, if you're feeling the call to serve, the most important thing you can do is walk your talk and walk your path and shine your light, because that is when people turn around to you and say, hey, what you doing? What happens to me is my friends that are asleep are like, your life's really good. Like, why is your life going so well? And I'm like, because I'm doing the self-work.
Yeah.
And so they're coming to you. It's not you going to them. You're just shining your light, and then they come to you. And I think that is the better way.
Modeling or encouraging people. Yeah, people, that's the best way for a lot of people. And, I think we can't take people's lessons away from them as well, can we? We can't. No. You said that you valued your sleep time, and some people, there's this thing around actual physical birth. That there's studies that say that psychologically people are healthier if they go through the whole process and come out, out through the whole thing rather than cesarean birth where you kind of pulled out. So I can't remember exactly what the study showed, but it did seem to show that psychologically people are more resilient or more resourceful or something, having gone through the whole thing rather than being, half the process whipped out. So
which is really traumatic, isn't it? Natural birth's meant to be quite traumatic, isn't it? But it's obviously serving in one way or another for the soul or the child that is being born.
Yeah, exactly. And we all know what happened to the first cesarean birth. It was Julius Caesar, and what happened to him. I came, I saw, I conquered. It was all that, wasn't it? So, well, I'm sure if people who listen to this about cesarean births, I'm not suggesting you're a mass murderer, don't worry. It's the point is around people's lessons. Some people want to learn lessons of courage by going through very difficult experiences. Some people want to learn lessons of love by going through the opposite, by going through betrayal and all these things. And if we kind of try and cut in and go, I want to rescue you or not allow you to have that lesson, then at some level they're going to be very resentful, I think.
And I think it's also one of the things that I think happens when you wake up is you discover all of these amazing gifts like healing.
Yeah.
And I find that nearly everybody, and it certainly happened to me, then goes into their ego, but their awakened ego, not their sleepy ego, where they, and you almost have to have a second awakening coming out of your ego and re-humbling yourself. And I kind of think that, thinking that you know best and thinking that you have more light and knowledge than another soul is really coming from a place of ego, awaken or not.
Yeah, I think so.
And
there's that kind of spiritual ego, which is kind of. I heard a guy called Adi Ashanti, a very great spiritual teacher. Somebody asked him the question, is every awakening the same? And he said, no, some people have very adolescent ones. They wake up a bit, they think they're God on earth, and then, something else happens. They haven't really had a full, complete. When people have a really deep, full, complete awakening, they usually be very humble about it. And they don't go around with signs saying, I am enlightened or, any of that stuff. The question is ridiculous, isn't it? There is no set standard for enlightenment. There's not like a scale of 1 to 100 where I can measure Katy on the scale or Steve. We don't know. We're kind of awakening. We're opening, but we can't say who's higher or more awakened than someone else.
And also, we're only ever going to be as awakened as the total human race is able to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because actually,
once you start waking up, you want to hang out with other people with the same language. It's always lovely talking with you, Katy, because you're one of these innovative souls. When I interviewed you, you've kind of gone onto grounds which I haven't really heard much before. These light, dark portal things and these alchemical healing things. And I think, that's really cool. I like hanging out with people who've really explored and finding their own way and finding their own answers and helping feedback and go, well, does this help?
And that's
which is what we're doing.
Yeah, and that's really the kind of question for those of you that are feeling the call or the pull of your path. It's like, start doing what works for you, whatever that is. But that's what your path is. What's working for you is what you have to give.
Yeah.
What resonates with you, what opens your heart is what you have to give. And the people that you are there to help will find you because it's soul contracted, but you just have to kind of go out and do what works for you and not worry about anybody else. We have a question, Steve, and so I'm going to ask it. Thank you. One question. And I expect more, guys. Come on. From Louise, who says, does Steve have any advice on helping us surrender?
Ooh, surrender.
Good question, by the way.
Okay.
Good one, Louise.
Well, if Louise was there, I would ask her, what specifically do you mean? Surrendering what? Do you mean surrendering fear, not knowing? You know, what exactly is surrendering about? Surrender could mean there's some kind of conflict going on. One part of you wants one thing, another part of you wants another. You know, that could be something. And really, if that's the case, it's not a question of surrender. It's more a question of knowing and embracing. Well, one part of me wants this, another part of me wants that, and rather than having it has to be either or. Actually, there are ways of actually bringing them together. There's a system I really like called voice dialogue. If you're interested, if that's something that speaks to you, voice dialogue, and there's a brilliant book called Embracing Ourselves by Hal and Sidra Stone. And they're basically talking about how, and for a lot of us, we have one part that wants, you know, independence, and another part wants community, and they both can coexist. But what tends to happen, they act like divorced parents. 1 minute one's in charge, and the next minute another's in charge. I know I'm Libra Sun, Scorpio rising. So basically, one part of me is very nice, very lovely, very charismatic, very charming. Another part of me is like an army military officer that if you push me too far, I used to send the troops over the hill, you know. And for a long time, particularly when I was in the corporate world, people used to get shocked that one part of me was so nice, and another part of me could be so kind of combative. But once I kind of joined them together and had the kind of nice part of the military commander, then it wasn't such a, you know, one way or another. We found a unified way of moving forward. So I think surrender talks to qualities of acceptance. If there's a situation we don't like, often it's made worse by fighting it. I really don't like this situation. I wish it would go away. Acceptance is great. The moment we accept something, it helps to kind of release from our energy field. You know, what we resist persists and all that.
I think as well,
include faith and trust. You know, it's a very broad subject. I mean, it would be nice if I knew specifically.
Yeah, Louise has said that she said surrendering to flow, to allowing synchronicity. So she's actually responded to you.
Surrendering to flow. Okay. Well, if you're kind of on a path, what I found in terms of flow is. You know, I've thought, for example, well, I like coaching, so I kind of trained in coaching. I know I'll be a corporate coach. That seemed, my head thought that was a good path, but nothing flowed with that. You know, no matter how hard I pushed, I get some clients, but I didn't enjoy it. They didn't really come back, so there wasn't much flow there. So I think it's actually a question of, well, if that's not working, then what else can I try? So I thought, well, actually, I really like energy healing, and I like this Ascension stuff. What about me combining that and see if that works? Suddenly, lots of people were interested. And so it's almost like feedback from the universe. So if one path is not flowing, you might need to make adjustments. May not be massive adjustments. See, now, is it flowing now? No? Okay, adjust again. Flowing now? Do you know what I mean? It's like anything. Like if you're having a relationship that's not going so well, you can adjust things. Like, well, let me buy her flowers and see if that, or let me try offering to massage, and suddenly or let me try really getting in my heart and talking. Oh, suddenly it's working. Oh, when I talk from my heart, suddenly the relationship sparks up. It can be a bit like that. So rather than, I don't know if it's a question of surrender. It's almost like trying things out. I knew many years ago also that creativity was very important. So I tried stained glass work, making jewelry. I did novel writing, and it was all very hard going. So if it feels hard going, obviously that's not flow. So then I came across non-fiction writing, and suddenly, bang! It was like, wow! It suddenly, and I've written 5 books, but I can't write a novel. So I thought I was a crap writer. But you see what I mean? It wasn't the fact that I give up writing, but try something, poetry or something else. So it is a question of flexibility, and I think there's this thing about essence versus form here. So if it's something like creativity switches you on, that the form of creativity can take 100 different forms, can't it? But only a few of them will switch you into flow. So sometimes it's a question of trying things out and go, oh, there we are, that's flowing. That one's not flowing so much. Okay, maybe I'll won't go down that route, you know.
And I find that the things I've tried that haven't flowed have still kind of served me, though. So, you know, for example, I when I was asleep, I thought I wanted to be an actress, and there was loads of stuff that I learned at drama school about breath and meditation and Alexander technique that now serves my path. And so sometimes I think you're sent off in another direction because it's a skill that you need to learn that will then come into play later on. And so it's about just allowing yourself to go off in that direction and then also be steered back to your path.
Exactly.
Does that resonate?
So the essence for you was like public speaking, performing, maybe learning, because acting's very fluid, isn't it? Learning to be spontaneous, which is very good. But the moment you try to force it down the path of acting, it didn't work. But but you were on the essence of it. But then you have to go, oh, it stopped working now. Maybe try another route. Oh, I'll be a channel. Well, I mean, I'm sure you didn't decide one day I'll just be a channel, but you're kind of flowing towards. So I often think of it like that game when we're children of hot and cold, you know. One person's blindfolded and all the other kids go, you're getting warmer.
Definitely.
Getting warmer.
And I think synchronicity is really like that. Like when the synchronicity is going crazy, it's going really hot now, you're really there now.
And then you're boiling, and then something and another great sign is aliveness. I think when a path is right, it feels alive, and then you know what I mean, alive. You feel like you've got an energy for it. And in terms of coaching, when I speak to people, their eyes light up, their whole nervous system switches on. And so it's keeping, there's the aliveness. Oh, they've lost the thread now. Let's go back to where they lost it. So where else can we go with this? And of course, it's easier if you're in conversation with people who are a bit switched on as well than trying to do it yourself. But, you know what switches you on. So in terms of surrendering to flow, if you're switching on to something like creativity or, you know, it could be healing or teaching, once it starts switching off, don't push the boat. Don't keep going. Well, it did work. It must work. Stop and kind of backstep a bit and go, oh, well, I've lost the thread. Let's find the thread again. Oh, there it is. I'll go off in that direction, you know. So
I think one thing that really helped me, because I was battling when I first woke up, and I was channeling and healing, and I was really battling between acting and tour guiding and channeling and all of these things. And I remember asking my guides, really upset and being like, what am I? I don't know what I am. And they were like, Katy, you're a communicator. And suddenly I was like, oh, I'm all these things, you know, and they're not separate. They're all one. Because I'm a communicator, and all of these skills from all these different communications belong to my path. Yeah. And kind of getting down to the core of what you are and allowing that to flow is really how you allow your path to flow. It's like, I am a teacher, I am a communicator, I am a creator. You know, if you can get to a kind of core essence of it, then that essence can flow in whatever direction it needs to flow for the time that it needs to flow in that direction.
Yes, totally. There's something called portfolio working, where people don't have one line of work or one way of they want to go. They can have several. And it could also include income. You know, I could earn money as a podcaster. I could earn money as a coach or a channel. You know, there are many ways of doing it. It doesn't have to be. The old mindset in 3D is there's one way, one job, 9 to 5 or whatever it is. But we're in a world now where we have to be more fluid and more open to several channels of following our hearts, really.
And I also think, just to add to the thing about synchronicity, please add anything else, Steve, but I really think that if you ask for signs, you get them. Like, just keep asking. Yeah. The more you communicate with the universe, the more it communicates with you. Because unlike human beings, the universe is very respectful of your free will. And so you really have to let the universe know that you want to be invaded energetically with signs and synchronicity. Because otherwise it'll be reflecting your free will, respecting your free will, that you don't, you know? Yeah,
that's a great point. I often think of the universe as a kind of huge tarot deck that you know, and sometimes we might get a sign like 1111, which we kind of recognize. But sometimes the signs come in other things, which we have to go, what does that mean to me? The universe is speaking. And I think the vaguer the question we ask, the vaguer the response often. So I know when I was working in the corporate world and I had the question, should I resign from this job? And within 24 hours, the sign came back on the back of the T-shirt, actually, just do it, you know, tick, Nike. And I was like, and I resisted it. I went, no, I'm not going to believe, that can't be right. But I saw the same sign within a minute and I went, you know what? I asked the question, I'm going to resign. And I resigned. And it was the right thing. I saw a double rainbow the next morning, which is kind of like, oh, double rainbow, okay. That sounds like it's the right thing to do. So I think specific questions rather than vague, you know, like, what should I do with my life? The universe goes, well, I don't know. You know, we can't answer that for you. That's not our job to answer that. But if you say, you know, is this direction great for me? Then the universe will say, yeah, well, yeah or no.
And
that's the way I feel it.
I say, universe, put it in my face. Like, I'm really specific about the signs. I don't want them to be vague. I'm like, universe, you've got to send me a sign that is so obvious that I can't not, you know, that I can't not justify it, or like I can't, like something that is so undeniable. Steve, you said to me before the webinar that you had some suggestions for what people need to clear so that their path can open up. So can I ask you that question?
Oh, yes. Well, one of the things about 3D is when we start leaving 3D, there's various things that can kind of we kind of need to clear. One of the most common things I find with people is lower astral energies in their energy field. And these could be like group thought forms, groups we've been connecting to. It can be cords to people, places, or groups or organizations, or even spiritual groups, actually, as well, or even spiritual teachers. Openings in people's energy field where people are leaking energy. I think that's something that needs to be sorted. Something in the system I trained in was even looking at our guides and angels around us. Sometimes we need to ask for them to be upgraded or updated. Because we're changing so fast. 30 or 40 years ago, this wasn't a problem, but nowadays we're changing so fast. Actually, our guides need to change quicker, and it seems like it doesn't happen automatically always. We have to kind of say, hey guys, speed it up. I need to change here.
I'd love to just say something there, Steve, that one of the messages I've had is that this May is a massive upgrade for everybody, and a lot of people's gonna have new guides. There's gonna be kind of a mass walk-in of new guides, and so it's a really powerful time to ask for that, especially around Beltane in the start of May.
Right.
Just to kind of share that. Because you've hit
okay, I'm going to watch out for May. I'm waiting for it. Other things, of course, the main challenges in the Akashic are ancestral patterns from the family, or past life issues coming down the family line. Sorry, coming down your own personal timeline, wherever you've been in the universe, and present life issues. As an adolescent, you may have suffered some kind of trauma. So these are kind of three threads that sometimes need to be cleared. And as we shift our light up, these old patterns come up for healing and clearing. And we can have lots of patterning in our unconscious mind. It's not always very helpful for us. That can be cleared quite easily. The other thing I'm finding for particularly light workers who are in the spotlight, it might not affect most people, but those who are kind of on the public stage, there is interference from guardians of the 3D system sometimes. They kind of go, well, we're still playing by the old rules and we don't like you, getting out there so much. And I've had lots of interference that I've had to learn to clear. So spiritual hygiene, energetic hygiene is very good things to learn. Well, that's just a kind of brief thing, I think, which is quite vast. I do spiritual hygiene and clearing every day.
So do I.
Sometimes, like even watching a film could trigger something. I know I watched a film The Last Samurai, and I felt very strange afterwards, and I had to check the pendulum because I do pendulum checking, and it was vows from kind of samurai lifetimes that were activated. You know, I will follow my Lord and Master to the death, and they're not really very helpful if you're living a 21st century. You know, you don't want to be following your boss to the death anywhere, really.
And so if people don't know how to do these clearings, what do you say? I mean, there are so many ways to clear the things that you're talking about, but is there something that you can suggest that people can do at home by themselves if they feel something like that comes up? Of course, and I'm saying you should definitely have healings with Steve, you should go to ceremonies, you should follow the call, but is there something that you can suggest that people can do at home to help their hygiene, to help their kind of clearing process?
Yeah. There's a great book called Cutting the Ties That Bind by Phyllis Crystal. And that's a great book for working with the higher self for cutting cords. And cord cutting is one of the most basic and very helpful processes you can do for clearing out other people's energy. Another thing that people can do is on my website, there's something called a Metta Bhavana transmission. Now, the Metta Bhavana is a process of reversing negative projection. So if you're having a difficulty with someone, this process actually helps you reverse that flow. So it neutralizes any negative energies between you. That's another way of working between you. And I found that very useful. It doesn't work with the most traumatic. If, you know, for example, let's say someone was raped. I wouldn't suggest they do that with a rapist. But if you're having a difficult boss or a difficult mother-in-law, this is a great process to do. There's other ones on the website like meditation of waterfall of light. It's just like light flowing through your body to clear out any old lower astral stuff. I mean, on my website, I'm sure on lots of other websites you can find, I think I've got loads of meditations, and I've interviewed people like yourself, and most of the people come with meditation. So have a scoot around and see if there's a particular subject that appeals. Systems I've trained in, which I really recommend in terms of energy, the best systems I've come across are one called spiritual response therapy. And that's an old system, about 30 years, but it's very good at clearing all the stuff I've mentioned. And the basic training course is about 3 days. I'm sure they still train in England. And the other one, which is kind of new to England, which I trained in recently, is called quantum psionics. And this comes from Brazil via Portugal. And there are training courses in the UK. And this clears out a lot of stuff in your energy field, a lot of stuff. It's actually very good for DNA activation as well, and clearing spaces. It's very good for that. Again, there's, I think I've got interviews on my website with quantum psionics. I haven't got interviews with spiritual response, but quantum psionics, you can find a lot of stuff on that on my website. And there are other systems. I think theta is a system up to a point that I liked. I mean, I resonate up to a certain point, and I stopped resonating with it. So, and it works for some people, but for me, it didn't totally suit me. So you've got to look around. There are a lot of violet light transmission stuff that people are doing. Violet light is a very effective one.
Yeah,
on my website is diamond white, violet light, and all these kind of variations of these new rays coming in that kind of clear karma in the body. If you look around, you'll find lots of resources. I'm sure, Katy, you've got some probably in your website.
I mean, alchemy is kind of my big one of the moment, but I think that more than anything, it is about knowing what resonates with you, because there is so much out there. But you've got to find out what works for you, because your path and your energy body and your history is different from everybody else's in the universe. And so you've got to get that conversation with the universe going, and that conversation with your heart going, so you can say, does this work for me? I mean, I'm a fire person, so how I clear my energy is I do a fire ceremony every month with a group, and it is like I get menstrual towards the time of the fire ceremony, because I'm full of energy that is waiting to be cleared. And I also do daily practice and stuff like that, but I know that the fire ceremony kind of does it on a monthly thing for me. That's not necessarily going to work for a water person. You know, like you've got to go with what, like Steve said, makes you ignite, makes you feel like it's really shifted you and really helped you. And I think we don't have much time, but I just want to come on to this final point, which is that one of the biggest messages I've had is that the way that we're healing ourselves is changing. And what worked for you last year doesn't necessarily work for you this year, especially with this new path cycle. And I noticed that in your email to me about this, Steve, you said that the game's really changing. And so I just wanted to ask you about that. Like, how do you feel the game is changing?
Yeah, well, I think on a world global level, the game's changing in terms of I think we're just looking at the American election with Trump coming in. He was, I think, a bit of a shock to the establishment who were pushing for Clinton, I think. So he came in and he's caused quite a bit of chaos in some ways. And then there's the Brexit thing. So it's almost like things are kind of shaking up everything and just seeing where it lands, you know. At a personal level, I think this year is going to be a lot of starseeds are going to feel a big calling to change, particularly if they're doing something very 3D and think, well, I'll hang out here for a while. There's going to be a lot more pressure this year to shift that. I think relationships and situation and work is changing for a lot of people. Things that might have worked for a while may suddenly stop working. And that's just part of the energy shifting on the planet. And I do think with starseeds, there's a lot of starseeds on the planet as part of this shift, and a lot of them we've come almost like preset with an awakening. You know, once so and so things happen, we wake up. You know, and this year, I think this year and next year, masses of people are going to start waking up, going, you know, I want to change my life. And of course, it's great for people like me and you, Katy. I have lots of clients who say, help, I want to change my life. You know, and the old game, I think. If I may be so conspiratorial, 9/11 was the kind of the attempt by the kind of old guard of the 3D system to keep the world in order. And by and large, that attempt has not really worked out. 9/11 was a massive wake-up call for a lot of people. So as the old guard that want to keep things as they are, the status quo, you know, war and, you know, fear, separation, consciousness. Actually, what it's doing is actually triggering a lot of people to wake up. And all the prophecies everywhere have said, you know, the transition is going from a very dark period of spiritual ignorance to a period of light. But in between, there's all this kind of war and chaos, and we're in the kind of chaos of it. But the dawn is, you know, on the horizon. We can see the light shining. We're not completely in it yet, but it is there waiting for us.
And it is going to be co-created by us. So if you want to get to that dawn, start letting go and walking your path. Like, start really listening to the stuff in your life that isn't igniting you, that isn't making you alive, that isn't making you light. And take that leap of faith. And it is such a leap of faith, but, you know, walking your path is the best thing in the world. And it does have its hairy moments and its scary moments and its challenges, but it's worth it. Because every day you wake up happy, and in the midst of the, you know, it's a bit like parenthood. It's not, it's something that the love so outweighs the pain that it's worth it. And so I really encourage you all to kind of use this year to break free and just start walking your path. Even if you don't fully know what that is, just start with what you think it is, and let it grow and let it evolve. Because, Mike, I'd say if you're waiting for the universe is waiting for you. The universe is not going to deliver you your path on a plate. The universe is waiting for you to go, this is what I think I want to do. I'm going to try this. Otherwise it's stalemate. You're just waiting for each other. You know?
And there's loads of resources. You know, I'm not talking. There's external resources like Katy, like myself. Lots of people. I mean, when I was 30 years ago, there was hardly anything really compared to nowadays. Masses of resources, masses of books, masses of seminars, meetups, everything. But really, the most important resource is within yourself. It's the connection to the higher self, your own angelics and guides guides around you, and they are with you. But it's kind of just taking that break from the outside world to sit back and connect in and go, okay, I'm listening. Are you there? Forming a relationship with them.
And look, the truth is if you are listening to this now and in the next few months, you are a leader of the new age, because you're awake first. So your path is in some ways to lead this ascension journey, because we're the ones that are awake. That's the role that's been picked for us by us. And so know that your path is integral to that happening. And that's really what I'm going to do with this last meditation, is really kind of tune you into why you need to start walking your path, your ascension path. And that ascension path is really whatever makes you happy and makes you alive, like Steve said. I'll just let you all know that Starlight has 2 places left on our Ibiza journey in May, and it's the path journey. My guides say that anybody called to this journey is going to really get all of those new guides, activate, wake up, find their path, come into their power. So again, follow the call, follow the signs. I know that these last 2 places again are filled by 2 of you last-minute.comers. So there is the link, and at the end I will put up the link to Steve's website again. You can just click on the links and they open in other tabs, so you won't lose the webinar if you want to click on either. And Steve, do you have anything else you'd like to say or tell people about?
Say or tell people about? Well, no, I think just check my website. Lots of free ebooks, lots of free podcasts with people like yourself, loads of transmissions, which are energetic meditations held in angelic kind of energy fields. So I think people should at least try one and see if it resonates.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, it's such a vast topic, Ascension, but I really think you've gifted your Magic Month audience with so much insight tonight, and I'm really so grateful. And the light that you're shining into the world is amazing. And I loved what you said as well about it being multi-directional, because we're not one job beings, we're multi-dimensional beings, and I really think you're such a good example of that, because you do so many different things with your path. And it always inspires me, because I'm like, Steve's doing all this cool stuff, I can do loads of cool different stuff. And that's what I mean when I say walking your path is really the way, because just like I said, Steve inspires me to be multi-directional in my path. He's evolving my path, and simply by just doing his path and doing what makes him alive. And that's how you wake people up. You don't need to send energy. You don't need to mark yourself. You just need to be alive and doing what makes you alive. And that's how you inspire other people to do the same. And that's how this change is going to happen. And Steve, I know you're inspiring so many people, and you're doing so much light work and so much clearing work and so much. And I really think the oracle that you're creating of all of this information is one day going to be a university for awakened starseeds to go and study the ancient ways of ascension or something like that. I think it's going to be amazing. Guys, those of you that are listening live, if you do have any questions or anything else you want to ask, now is the time to ask it. And Steve, do you have any, before I start the meditation, do you have any kind of final words or final things you feel called to share in your heart?
Final words would be, everything is all right. That old Bob Marley, everything's all right, going to be all right. Just soften and relax into the universal arms of light.
Oh, that's
you are held.
That's beautiful. And I pulled a card from my favourite dragon lot of cards, and it's the Moon Sky Dragon. Oh gosh, we're getting loads of moon cards today. And I'm going to read the poem. These cards are by Val Young, who's amazing. She channels dragons, cosmic dragons. And I'm going to read the poem at the end of the meditation. But for those of you that are ready to connect to your path, close your eyes and breathe in love and breathe out gratitude, and really allowing all that you have heard to integrate, all of the advice that has resonated with you to integrate, and any advice that doesn't resonate with you, allow it to let go. And placing your hands on your heart, think about what you love. Maybe your path is just a seed and you can't see the full tree of it at the moment. But think about what you love, what you'd love to wake up and do in the morning. Even if it's just a feeling of feeling fulfilled and feeling like you're waking up fulfilled and overflowing with love for what you're going to do that day, even if you don't know what it is. Now imagine yourself feeling that feeling and taking that feeling out into the world with you. And all of those people that you are going to help to feel that through your path, whether it is teaching, whether it is inspiring because you're a writer or a creative, or whether it's making them healthy, whatever it is, your path will always serve some other people. And your path will always bring those other people into fulfillment. And so feel those other people's hearts that your path is going to help directly filling up with that fulfillment and with that joy. And of course, every single one of those other people, whether it's 5 or whether it's 5 million, they have people that they're going to help on their path. So feel those hearts filling up with joy and fulfillment of the people that your path are going to help and the people that those people are going to help. And then there's the next layer of people, with the people that you help with your path and the people that they helped and then the people that they help. So now there's 3 layers, 3 generations of people that get helped by your path because you lit up those people directly, and then the people indirectly, and then the people indirectly. And now start to invite all of the people that you are going to help indirectly, simply by being happier, by being more abundant, by being able to give wisdom to your friends and family and shine your light to them. And how that's going to help their hearts fill up with love and help them get onto their path and often help them wake up. And all of those people that your friends and family are going to help because they've become happier, because they've become more fulfilled. And then the people that your friends and family help, all of the people that they help, directly and indirectly. And feel how your path and the light of your path doesn't just reach the people that it directly touches. It reaches like a web of light all the way around the world to every single person in the world, because we all know each other through love. We can connect to every person in the world because there's always somebody that loves somebody else that can connect you to anybody in the world. And that joy and fulfillment that you shine into the people that you love, because you love everybody you help on your path, will then shine through those other people. All around the world. And so your path is actually a web of light that shines around the world, raising the vibration of every single person in the world, because it's creating more joy and more health and more happiness and more light. And not only does it go around the world, it goes down through the generations. Because what about all of those parents that your path is going to make healthier and happier and going to get them inspired? And those parents are going to pass all of that down to their children. And those children are going to pass all of that down to the children that they have and the children that they have. Just as all of those ancestral karmic lessons were passed down, now the light is being passed down. Now the love is being passed down. And the organism of the earth is dependent on your path, on you holding joy and love in your heart, by living it, by doing what creates it with your actions. And feeling the reach of your path. Ask your heart, what do I need to do tomorrow to help this path happen? This path that's so important because it's going to reach every single person on the earth and many, many generations after it. What do I need to do tomorrow to make it happen? The first step towards it. And even if you're walking your path, what is the first step towards more of it? And just let the answer come from the soft folds of light in your heart. From this sense of it belonging to the whole. We resist our path because we do not want it to. We do not believe we are worthy of it. But it doesn't actually belong to you. It belongs to everybody that you're going to help, which is the whole world, which is Gaia and Source. And just allow your heart to feel that, so that your heart can start speaking your path and communicating with the universe. As you listen to the poem of the moon dragon, and these dragon cards are Ascension cards. I am the moon sky dragon. I have the freedom of flight through all the skies when the moon is dark. I can devour your darkest nightmares or reflect back to you your greatest fears. When the moon is full, I can add a sparkle to your brightest dreams, your future hopes. I sail through the skies on stormy nights, swirling with the winds, dancing with the darkness, cleansing the debris of the day on bright, star-filled nights. I fill the sky with crystal clarity and let you sense how brightly you shine, sparkling like a star. All of the skies of your path are your path. And you are always a star within those skies. Thank you all so much for tuning in now or in the future. Sorry about the Mercury retrograde at the beginning. But resistance is always a sign that something big is on the way. You don't resist things that aren't worth being resisted. So technical problems are just a form of resistance to what has been such an amazing, beautiful webinar. Thank you so much, Steve. I will try and edit out.
Thank you, Katy.
And then,
Okay.
thank you, everyone. So much
Thanks,
love.
Katy.
Bye.
Bye.